Hello everyone. So, not the greatest of news once again. Sort of made a vlog very similar to this a little over a month ago, in which my therapist had to go on leave unexpectedly because of her health. But now, it's about as bad as it could be in that due to similar health issues that did not clear up, she now can't see me at all anymore. She has to basically retire and go on disability or something like that. And this was kind of sudden and unexpected, apparently, so I just lost my therapist, which really sucks. I've never really dealt with this before because this person has pretty much been around since right around the beginning of when I started seeking therapy. It's been a bit of an interesting adventure where my adoptive father convinced me that I was crazy, and so I was like, alright, then I need to get help. So I went and saw a psychologist in the basement of my university, and he told me to go get counseling, referred me to a program, and told me to come back in a month. I started getting counseling from what was available at the school at the time. I ended up finding out that was a PhD student at the time, which didn't bode too well with me, but went back to the psychologist a month later, and he didn't remember me at all. I had to retell everything. And then he was like, okay, yeah, well, I referred you to that program, so keep on with the counseling. And I was like, yeah, and I'm not coming back here again because I don't see the point. I don't want meds from you, and you don't remember me, so I don't want to keep doing this. So not exactly had good experiences with them. But anyway, went on with the counseling, but when I found out that it was a PhD student and that he was going to be switching soon, I basically sort of felt like I was his PhD project, and I just didn't like that feeling, so I dropped that. And so I didn't do counseling for a little while. But then I think I finally got a call from the person who was my therapist for 4 years for the program that I had been referred to months and months before. It was a group program for PTSD. And I went for the initial interview or whatever, an assessment, and they said that, I was eligible for the program and everything and to take the group, but my schedule didn't really line up with it because I was a student, and so I couldn't really guarantee being available for the groups all the time. And you have to be, you have to go to every single one in order to be allowed in the program. So she said, I'm sorry I can't really put you in the group right now. We'll keep your name on the list, but I actually do counseling out of the university because they hire me as a on contract therapist or whatever. So with her trauma background and working with PTSD groups and stuff, I thought that was a great thing, and started doing personal therapy with her through my university, and did that for other than holidays and other reasons, basically every weekend for 2 years. And then I decided to report my abuse finally, and I decided to drop out of school in order to deal with that. And then I felt because I wasn't in school anymore, I could now be available to do the group therapies. And then that got me really excited, and so I asked to be put into them. And they finagled some things and made it work, and I got put into that group. And then she was a part of that for the first half of it. And then the second half I was actually with a different therapist. And that was my first experience really working with someone else. And this person was really good in group, but my private experience with them, one-on-one, was not as good. So I missed Susan. I missed the person I had been with up to that point. So then I just went for a while sort of without, but then I moved back to the city and had gotten some help from a compensation board here in Ontario for abuse. And with that, I was able to start getting private therapy with this person that I had basically on and off been getting therapy from for 3 years. And so for the past year, basically, I've been doing private therapy with her every 2 weeks. and now it's just sort of over. She's not leaving me high and dry per se, in the sense that she's referring me to other people she thinks is really good. And she said I can call her if I'm in emergency, and I can call her like before my next upcoming court thing. And for the next little while, like, I can keep in touch with her via phone informally. So she's not leaving me without support, but no more formal sessions, basically. I have to find a new therapist. And yeah, just it sucks. I know a lot of you probably know what I'm talking about, because a lot of us end up going through this where we have to switch therapists. And last time I talked about her having to go on leave, a kind follower of mine, Gabby, posted saying, or rather posted a link with Katie Morton talking about how to deal with having to switch therapists, or your therapist leaving, or whatever. And it was really, really helpful, nice link for when you know ahead of time that your therapist is going to leave. But in both these situations, when she suddenly had to go on sick leave, and now when she just has to, like, leave, forever leave, they've just been sudden, and, like, I go in, or rather, one was just her calling me, and the other one I walked in thinking it was a normal session a few days ago, and got told. And it was just really interesting. Like, I wanted to, like, keep it together and be like, okay, you know, that sucks that you can't serve therapy for me, but that's alright. But I immediately started crying, and she started crying, which was interesting. And she felt really bad. She knew it was really bad timing for me, because in a month I have to go back into court and read my victim witness statement that I still haven't finished writing, or hardly started, for the sentencing of my adoptive father and the abuse that I went through. And so, you know, support through that would be great. And so it's nice that she'll let me call her, but with trying to get my channel back up and running now, and everything else that I have going on in life, I want to go to Anime North in Toronto coming up, and also just the headache that finding a new therapist is. I was just like, I'm just gonna put off therapy now. Like, I only would have had 2 or 3 more until I would have had to do that testifying, or that reading of the statement in June. So I'm just not gonna bother, because there's so much headache around that, and stress and anxiety, and I'm willing to face all of that when I don't feel overwhelmed by life as much as I do right now. There's just so much that's not answered or not known about what's going to be going on in my life until the sentencing finally happens, and all that stuff being up in the air, plus trying to get my channel going again. It's just kind of a big fat no. No, it's too much. No. So it really sucks that I'm basically gonna be without therapy for a little while. But I'm not without support. Like, she is still there, and you guys are awesome. You guys have always been awesome. So I don't feel without support. It just does really suck, because she's like someone that's been with me, as I said, from the start. And so we spent our last session basically just kind of, she, you know, talked to me a bit about my issues, but at first we just sort of reminisced about the last 4 years and how I started with her and have been going through a lot with her. And way back in the beginning, like, I told her about my abuse, and she's like, you have to get away from that person, my adoptive father. And I told her I couldn't. I didn't feel I had it in me to get away from him, like, emotionally, because I was physically away from him, but I was still emotionally connected to him. And she's like, you can't. And I was like, yeah, he's my dad. I can't just walk away. And so she went through all me developing through finally getting away from him emotionally, and finally reporting it, and going through all this court stuff. So, and having been there with me through all of that, it sucks really bad that she's leaving. Kind of leaving out of my life. But again, she's doing it gradual, so I'm grateful for that. And yeah, I empathize very deeply with anyone who ever has to deal with their therapist leaving. And I'm going to leave in the description that link that Gabby left me with Katie Morton offering suggestions on how to deal with this. Generally, you usually have warning, when your therapist is going to have to switch, and so that's where her advice comes in, and it's really helpful advice in that sense. And in the future, Angie and Jackie and Nat and myself are thinking about doing a group conversation discussing having to switch therapists, because unfortunately Nat and Jackie are facing this as well. So maybe stick around. I might link that in the description in the future if we do end up doing that, and check all that out if this is something you're facing, and feel free to reach out for support to me or anyone else in that group if we end up doing that group discussion, if you're going through this, because it really does suck to have to switch therapists. But you know, you definitely shouldn't give up on it altogether, and that's not what I'm doing. I'm just taking a bit of a break until things are a little bit calmer, and I feel like I have the mental capacity to deal with having to basically retell my whole story and then go from there to actually start getting help again. Oh, but that is one thing I did want to finish off with. I really feel is advantageous about this situation. It can be anyways, is I've had 4 years with this person, and so I've sort of, in some ways, not all, but in a lot of ways, I've exhausted a lot of her ability to help me. Now, a lot of it has just been like me growing and developing myself, and then she's able to help me along with that. But like, I feel if I can find a new person that I click with well, and like we can get along, and you know, I feel comfortable with them, they might have a new approach or some new ideas, new ways of thinking that will help me take some new steps in healing and developing. So that's something I'm a little bit excited for, actually, in terms of a new therapist, is potentially just a new approach and some new steps in healing. So something to look forward to, I guess. So anyway, yeah, I empathize very much if you're going through this or anything similar to this, and feel free to comment below if you can relate at all. And just thank you so much for watching and keeping along with me through these silly vlogs and these lovely hard times they call life. And as always, please do join me again next week, where I try again to share a little something that I've learned in life.